Friday 23rd, episode 180, and it's 3.46 years I've been doing Chocy Chat. 3.46 years. Who'd have thought? How's everybody doing? Happy Chocy Chat. Happy Friday. I can see Nell, Mind Your Temper, Stuart's there. Hiya, Ruth joined us. We chatted with Ruth last week. That looked like a fantastic course out in Austin, Texas. That was really busy. Some nice, really nice, quite an eclectic mix of chocolate stuff you did there last week. That's really quite amazing. Laura's there, Lavoco Chocolates. Who else got? Mo the Baker. How are you, Mo? You got Isle Baked there over on the Isle of Wight. Kind of that way. Paula there, Fusion Chocolates. How you doing, Paula? Paula was up at the Sosa thing this week. That looked interesting. Linda, how are you? Artie Chocolate, she's in New Jersey. Who else have we got? Gina, Surfer Leg, saying hey Chocy Chat crew. New Zealand way. Alice is that way. Oh, class with Alice this weekend. We're gonna have I need to email Alice. I need to email you. Saturday or Sunday is good for me. Whichever day works for you. So I'm chasing my tail this week. We had a delay in the big bottles. We don't buy small amounts of big bottles, so like trying to forecast what it is that you're going to need, and then when there's a delay, and I don't know what we ran out a couple of weeks ago. It's like, oh, what do we do? So all the bottles came in today. So I could literally just run from the workshop. We are madly topping up. Say we. Everybody's labelling, everybody's doing everything, right? So tough at the top, isn't it? Good evening. Hi, Darren. Hello from the W Edinburgh. Hello. They got some colours this week. My brother-in-law there, Orwa. Hello, Orwa. Chocodilic, I can see. Pastry Jacks. Gosh, who else we got? Leanne, Sydney Williams, Billy, Scottish Chat. Billy post anything this week? Didn't see anything. I see Mad Chocolates did some really nice stamps. He did the cloverleaf. I think he's doing them for the moulds that I've got. I'm not sure. I need to get in touch with Paul, see what's going on there. So I am doing really well. Busy week, really busy for me. We've got various projects going on. It genuinely feels like 2 minutes since I was sat here last Friday. So and chatting to Ruth in Austin, Texas. It just flies. I planned on trying to get some people to have a chat, but this week's run away with me. Debbie, I can see. Purely complimentary. Hello. Stuart's there. How you doing, Stuart? Chocolates by Neander. Dr. Mara's joined in South Africa. See the post that Dr. Mara did? They are some really nice looking chocolates. Really nice looking chocolates. Those absolutely stunning. And reading the flavours, wow. A lot of work put into that. Temper, come to Montreal. I saw that post. Because it's all a little bit busy. We got a lot of projects going on at the minute, and the stuff, with the factory and the workshop and just classes and all. There's so much stuff going on at the minute. We're like Rennie and I are kind of like broken in the middle, trying to divide ourselves, along with having a home, having family, and travelling and meeting customers, all that kind of thing. But I saw the post. I think Ruth mentioned it about maybe next year doing it in Montreal. It's like, I looked over at Rania and said, no, that's somewhere I'd like to visit. I definitely would like to visit. Mo, I can't tell you anything about that until we get going with it. It's all busy at the minute. I'm keeping all that secret. Temper, you gonna come over to? Would you come over? It's in Montreal. I think you get quite a lot of visitors. I hate to say it, I think there's quite a few people that are scared of travelling to the USA at the minute. I know lots. I know dozens and dozens that have just kind of cancelled plans, and not wanting to make it super political, but I've had so many friends that were denied entry, and it's a little bit worrying. But Canada, I think I'm okay with. Who knows? I'm sure all this stuff will just move aside and go away eventually. So no, I can't be bribed. All right, Can, you're coming over from Vancouver. I'd like to go and visit Vancouver. I was in Vancouver. I worked on Vancouver. I worked in Comox in Vancouver Island, first in Victoria, and then Vancouver Island, and just quite easily one of the nicest places I think I've ever been. We drove from Calgary, hired a car. As a young soldier, we hired a car. It was a Pontiac. It was an absolute gas guzzling 6-litre. Drove all the way to Vancouver, and when we got to Vancouver, like, we ain't driving back and getting a plane. There's no way. It takes 3 days to drive. I don't think people quite realise quite how big Canada is when you want to try and drive across it. And Vancouver, I'd like to visit without a doubt. There's a couple of chocolate shops there I'd like to visit. Chocolate buying, and just bought me a spray gun. Haven't tried it yet. Why not? What are you waiting for? We're planning, so Ruth's saying we're planning Montreal, no news until 1st of the year. Happy days, of course. We'll all be waiting. Been to the left-hand side of Canada, not been to the right-hand side. Travelled a little bit all over. Karen King is saying hello to everybody. Blind chocolatier, can I make a syrup with lemon balm for fondant, or is it not really worth it just because I'm growing it? Yes, absolutely. Lemon balm. There's two. Lemon balm's a soft leaf, whereas you get lemon verbena, which is a hard leaf, right? Lemon verbena will give you an oil. Lemon balm will give you a really, really amazing syrup. If you can keep the temperature down, what I would do is I would blend it to try and extract. If you make the syrup and then blended all the lemon verbena in there, you'll get the flavour up. Just try and keep the temperature absolutely as low as you can. If you've got, Stu, I think you've got vac pack. What I would be tempted to do is to make a syrup, cool it down, absolutely fill that bag with very, very clean lemon balm, and then vac pack it on like just low pressure, vac pack it, and just let that sit for a couple of weeks, and I think you'll find that all that flavour will impart into the syrup, and then you can just strain it a couple of times. Challenge you have with lemon balm is it's a soft leaf, so as soon as you warm it up, and when I say it's a soft herb or soft leaf, what I mean, it's like chives, basil, coriander, chervil. As soon as you cook them, the cellulose breaks down, or any acidity on them, they go brown, so you end up losing that lovely. If you try and blend it to get a lovely green syrup, if you ever so warm that slightly or it gets any acid in it, you'll find the green colour just like pops straight away. Whereas with lemon verbena, which is a hard herb, you can cook it, blend it, kind of behaves a little bit like rosemary. It's much broader leaf, but it's a bit more heat stable. But lemon verbena, without a doubt, is absolutely stunning, and we have loads in the garden. It's very, very strange. If anybody's know lemon verbena, kind of looks like a mint leaf. It's a little bit furry. Years ago, they used to stuff it into pillows for anybody that had a fever, and it's just the most powerful lemon hit. It's really, really, but it's really picky about where it grows. There's like 4 bits in our garden where we've transplanted it, and everywhere it died. But then there's just 4 very peculiar places where it's absolutely bloomed, and it's, it's in the crack of a paving slab, and it's just absolutely. Whereas, where we planted it in the garden, hoping that, it's all right, it's out of the sunlight, it'll grow nicely. It didn't do nothing, just died. And we've got grapes growing. Where the grapes are, there's a lemon balm right in the middle of it, and it's really, really flourishing. It's way too much, but yeah, give it a go. It's an amazing flavour, lemon balm, absolutely amazing flavour. Oh wow. Yeah, Mo, that's lots. I remember what we did. There were 3 of us. And we posted to Victoria to work with the Canadian Navy, actually. And then for a little bit of the time, we were stationed up in Comox. It's kind of about halfway up the island. But that drive from Calgary, well, it's from Medicine Hat, which is probably another 150 miles east of Calgary. And what we decided to is we'll drive to Calgary, drove up to Edmonton, walked around the biggest mall in the world at the time, and then decided to drive down. And it just took ages. It was just I've never seen roads so straight, so long, with not passing a single vehicle for hours and hours and hours, right? But it was a nice trip. Good times. Ian Wilson's joined us. I think Ian's you Navy or Army, Ian, I think. Severin's joined us. Yeah, do a Stuart. Do a syrup. Do a syrup, but for drinks, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I wouldn't mix the lemon balm with anything because it will get masked a little bit, but I would certainly get it marinating. You don't want any of the water cellulose to go into the syrup if you can. So just Ian's Navy. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm really good. Really good. It's busy. Just a busy boy, and I can't believe this is episode 180, and we did some figures earlier, and this is 3.46 years of Chocy Chat. That's got to be. The algorithm does not consider it at all that I do a live every single week. It's actually, they're like, oh, you know what, so what? I can't think there's many that do. I can't think there's many that do every week. Maybe there are. Don't know. Need to have a look. Who's got questions? Who's actually making chocolate? Is people doing stuff? It's Father's Day coming up, isn't it? It's all Rawson Chocolates. Hello. Alex East joined us. Send some hellos out. Now the weather's getting warmer. How to store bonbons? My room air conditioned around 1920. Is that too? No, 1920 is perfect for storing chocolates. You might have, like with ganaches, ganache is a little bit cooler because at 18, 19 degrees. Any fats in there, any butter fats that are in there will soften a little bit, which is lovely in terms of mouthfeel. But a little bit cooler, just be a little bit more stable. But 18, 19 degrees is absolutely fine. I would have a look at what ones you can chill and what I would always chill gandullas, pralines, and caramels. Nothing bad's going to happen if you chill those down in a normal fridge. And then the ganaches, but it's a challenge for everybody. It's in a hot climate. I get a lot of questions. About making chocolate in hot climates, and it is. If you're not in an AC'd room, I'm just trying to think back to my time in Thailand because we had a little patisserie where we had to do chocolates, but. Like if the AC wasn't on, it was just impossible to work because of the humidity. And I think what happens for people that are in that climate, where you have extreme heat, you end up with really heavy humidity as well. And it's humidity that's a problem, not temperature. Quite happy to make chocolates in here when we're 23, 24 degrees, don't bother me at all. We will spray, we'll put the moulds in the fridge to chill, and then we'll shell. What I don't want is for me when the sustained humidity is above 75 and we are, I've got the sea is 150 meters that way. When the humidity goes up and it's sustained, it's like, oh, that's kind of pack everything away because the chocolate just won't move. But what you don't want is really cold temperatures, and you don't want, if you're storing chocolates, I certainly wouldn't go over 23, 24. Nadia, hello. Creative Confections. Got some new names. If you've got questions, fire away. If there's anything you want to know, I'll try and answer. Did try to do a Q&A if anybody saw that post this week. Yeah, I pulled that off quite a way. Just started getting some really weird, not nice questions. And what I wanted to do, I would have ideally, I'd have ignored it, right? But what happens is I wanted to save it as a square with all the questions and then post after it. And then just all this stupid crap started coming in. And then some really not nice comments, right? And they weren't personal; they were just inappropriate to what we were doing. I reported them, and I do what I normally do. But a couple of the questions. One of the questions one of the questions that was on there that I didn't ask, and it's Gary Townsend said to me, "What question don't people ask that you'd love people to ask?" And I've been thinking about that one for a couple of days now because I talk to so many people on Chocy Chat, because I talk to so many businesses, because I get asked so many questions. It's really hard. Such a tough question. That Gary had me stumped. It's not often that I sat there for days going, what questions don't people ask? Because I kind of get asked everything. One of them was I never get asked, do I enjoy it? Yeah. Love what I do. Good days, bad days, tough days. I don't have that mindset of like a bad day didn't get me down. I move on really, really quickly. I think I've said to so many people before, I truly don't, I don't have time for negative. I'm too busy. I've got too much going on. I'm quite happy to park something and move on. It kind of doesn't get, and it's the same as like not having rear view mirrors, right? Just, I look back, I learn a lesson. I think everything I've ever done, you know, if it's not quite going right, I always kind of think to myself, what's the lesson? What's this trying to teach me? Because there's always a lesson, isn't there? But yeah, that question that Gary had, that really had me stumped. It's like, what question don't people ask that you wish they'd ask? Tough one, that one, isn't it? Do I miss kitchen life? That was one. Do I miss big kitchen life? No, I love being my own boss. I saw a quote earlier today. I don't know what I was watching. I was watching a podcast, and it went something on the lines of, you know, money's not the answer, but making money gives you the freedom, and the answer is the freedom, right? For anybody that's running their own business at home, for anybody that's made that leap from maybe being employed to starting your own business in chocolate, it's certainly our niche market. You can make money, you can be very successful. It takes a lot of effort. It's no more effort than if you work for a company and got a paycheck and you work there 40 years and at the end of it, kind of, you know, you've contributed massively, but there's nothing at the end of it. For those that are running businesses, certainly I think you can make money. But it's hard work, right? But it's all that hard work that you do is for you. It's not for anybody else. And I think that's a wonderful element of freedom, that. Humidity in any patisserie work is always, yeah, anything. Alex eats, would you recommend adding anything to peanut butter for a filling, or keep it as just peanuts and salt? I wouldn't add, I'd keep it quite, if you're going to make a gandouille, which is basically a nut paste, isn't it, made from the peanuts, I would do some salt just to lower the bitterness, because nuts generally are quite bitter, right? The opposite of sweet the opposite of sweet is sour. The opposite of bitter is salt. So wherever you've got something bitter, add a little bit of, add a nice salt. Don't add cheap salt. Get yourself a big jar of molten salt, and all your food will improve massively. Like if you lined up different salts and tasted them, genuinely go like, why I've been cooking with table salt all these years. I wouldn't add spices because that'll mask the flavour. I think it's a case of choosing the right chocolate, right? Choosing the right chocolate. Pong Coco saying, I'm experimenting with whiskey infused cocoa nibs for some thin chocolate squares. Nibs have soaked for 8 days. I dried them up in the dehydrator, but wondering if the whiskey flavour will evaporate. I think the flavour in whiskies is not so much the alcohol, it's the tannins that are in the maceration, right? So I think you might find that I think you'll find that flavour does come through. It's a real challenge soaking the cocoa. You need to make sure they're really, really dry. Otherwise, when they grind, any fats that are in there, it will emulsify and essentially it will seize, right? So just make sure they are absolutely bone dry. Hello, of a real hell of a time. This is an interesting question. Creative Confections. I have a hell of a time shelling with caramelized white chocolate to the gold. The shells are either too thin or too thick, sometimes both in the same tray. I'll tell you what you can do with that. It's quite fluid. It's quite, so the caramelized gold, it's quite fluid and it's quite see-through. It's quite translucent chocolate. What I do, like I always, because I use silk from an Easy Temper, so we will get the chocolate to 33, we'll blend in 1% of the silk. As soon as that kind of reaches 32, 31, I rarely shell under 31.5. We'd always shell at 31.5, 32 degrees. Leave it in the mold. It just could be the speed that you're pouring, right? If you're taking your time pouring, and it depends on which way you go, I tend to snake it round that way. I know people that do it that way, but the problem is it takes too long to get to this end. So that when you tip it out, the one that's at this end that you filled last has been in there the least amount of time. So I don't, and this comes up on the hands-on classes all the time. It's like, why don't you go that way? It's a bit more accurate. It's like, no, I'm trying to fill it faster. Once you know how much chocolate you need, once you get a good idea of what 400 grams is, because that's what it takes to fill this mold, I will literally pour it into the middle and just go through those middle, not into the actual cavities, but down those bits, so it goes into both. I would scrape it off and just leave it on your table for a little bit longer. Just leave it on your table for 30, 40, 50 seconds, even a minute if you need to. I know from experience, it's probably better to have slightly thicker shells than too thin. If it's too thin, what did you do to thin it down? Because if you add cocoa butter to the chocolate gold, it goes really, 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 really thin. Yeah, so many questions on that one. Very unusual that you get the same ones. I think the only reason I could think of is that the speed that you're pouring, like I said, one end of the mold is in the one end of the mold has got the chocolate in the least amount of time. So you're trying to fill the mold quite quickly, so it's nice and even. Could also be that you're tapping more at that end. Okay, that's going to come out because we're vibrating out. There's not much vibration this end because you're holding on to it. So it might be that you just keep it level when you're tapping. Keep it level. If you keep doing this while you're tapping, the chocolate doesn't know where it's going. It's just going to get confused. It doesn't know. You just want to vibrate all the way out, nice and evenly. But this end that you're holding on to doesn't vibrate quite as much, whereas that is a bit more bouncy, right? So it might be that you have to flip it round if you need to and give it a scrape. But the more you tap, the more chocolate that comes out, and that's normally what leads to thinner shells, right? Little yellow trousers, yeah. Other than my own, which is the best kitchen you've eaten at? Adam Byatt. Adam Byatt is a chef. He's got a restaurant over in Clapham. That's pretty amazing. I ate at Purnell's, Birmingham. That was pretty amazing. I don't know if I have favourites anymore. There's a really gorgeous restaurant near here called 36 on the Quay. Tiny little. I like small restaurants with small menus. Trying to think. 36 on the Quay. I think where you are, I think some really nice restaurants, Stuart, where you are. You're Garden of England where you are, Stuart. There's stuff everywhere. Absolutely amazing stuff. Jabby's asking, where could I buy it in the USA? Buy what? Did I miss a question? Nadia's saying, sorry, I'm late. You're not late. Nobody's ever late. You're not late because, Nadia, you've kind of been here like so many from the beginning, and that was 3.461 years ago. I think it's 3.6 years, but it's 4 years since I started, right? Chocy Chat. Okay, there's the answer. I admit it, I added cocoa butter to thin it out. Okay. Lower the temperature. Chocolate gold, like it only needs. If you've got 3 drops, say you've got a milk chocolate or dark chocolate and it's a 3 drop and you want to make it a 4 drop, it's normally kind of 70 grams in a kilo. So 6 to 7% will change that fluidity. With gold, I don't know what, because there's so much cocoa mass in there. So essentially it's a white chocolate. So you would add more with white chocolate. I'd only go with 2 or 3% to change the fluidity. I think the beauty of the gold caramelized, because there's no cocoa mass in there, so it's not really thick. I'd just be really careful how much cocoa, because if it goes too thin, you can end up shelling twice. It's quite a translucent chocolate, caramelized gold, as is white chocolate, right? So, and it's a really high percentage of cocoa butter anyway. It's normally 33-34%, right? So if you're going to add another 5-6% to it, it's going to go very, very fluid, and that will cause you thin molds. Thin shells will cause you more problems than anything else, right? But equally, we don't want really, really thick shells. but it's totally up to you. I know there's been some debate around 823 and 811. I had some 823 recently, and it was borderline 2-drop. It was the thickest I've ever, just, and I don't think it's humidity in it, because I do have a way of checking that, right? So we scrape it along a scale. So and when we warm it, we'll be able to see if there's any moisture there. We do a test with the cocoa butter, so I'm able to do that. And there's no moisture in it. It was just, it's really, really thick. And then the next batch I bought that was a different lot was kind of back to normal. So who knows? Who knows? Time does fly. Did a demo at a care home, poured a mould with silk, tempered chocolate, asked the manager to put it in the fridge, 10 minutes later, not contracted. What temperature do you add the silk? How cold was the fridge? If you put silk into chocolate and it's above 34, you'll have melted all the beta crystals. If you put it below that, it should work fine. I normally, I mean, for the demos that I do, and it's only down the road, it's like a 10-minute drive, we'll get the chocolate to 33. I add the silk in literally and blend it in literally as I go, and when I get there I just test the temperature to see whether I need to warm it up by a little bit, and we just kind of give it a little bit of a hair dry just to get it up again. So yeah, it's kind of awkward when those things happen. I don't know, so many questions on that one. You know, silk doesn't work. It'll either be the quality of the silk or the temperature of the chocolate, one of the two. If you'd need to leave it, I think the other key thing is that, you know, I talk about this drying phase. Somebody called me out on it and said, like, it's not actually a drying phase, because, and then gave me the whole technical spiel about what drying is, but we'll call it drying. What I mean is, your chocolate's tempered and you pour it into the mould and you tap it all out, and we'll leave it upside down. When it goes dull, so it started that drying phase, right? When that goes dull, I turn the mould up, and then we kind of give it 10 minutes. It might be 8 or 9 minutes, but I'm just going to give it, depends on the temperature. The colder the room, the less the time. So if my room, you know, it's winter and the room's like, you know, 14, 15 degrees, we might leave it at room temperature for 10 minutes, for 7 or 8 minutes. If the room's a little bit warmer, I just want that chocolate to go through that first stage of drying. And once it's had 10 minutes, we'll pop them in the fridge on their side like that, and the lot. There's always one or two that doesn't. I have done some experiments where we shelled and then we put them straight into the fridge, right? So while the chocolate was still wet, and not one of them retracted. And the other thing is, they all bloomed, every single one of them. So nothing wrong with the temperature, nothing wrong with the silk, nothing wrong with the process, only I didn't let it go through that dry phase. While that chocolate was still wet, I put it in the fridge at 8 degrees on its side, and not one of them contracted at all. And then the next day I left this out, and the next day it formed bloom on the inside, but then they all retracted. So there is definitely something about that, getting through that dry phase, so that it goes very, very cold, and then you put it into the fridge. As soon as it drops below 14 degrees, they will all shrink, which is what retraction is, right? We'll call it what it is, it's shrinkage. Truffulus, hello. Room was 22 degrees, mould wasn't cold after she put it. Yeah, it might be the fridge wasn't cold enough. I did one with the brownies. I took a probe with me, and they're like, you know, you can use these fridges. And I opened the fridge up, and I felt the glass sheet. It's like, this has just been turned on. This has literally just been turned on. And when I put the probe in there, the fridge was 19 degrees. Like, this isn't going to work. Open the window, get some air flowing. I don't know if you always need to, I think with demos, I don't think because you've got to wait for that process, right? I don't think you always need to show them shells that have retracted. I think I tend to take a mould that's already retracted and then show them that, and then you do the chocolate rain bit, because that's really what they want to see. They just want to see you throw chocolate everywhere, and you get the wows and the oohs and all the rest of it. And I tend to put that aside because I'm on stage as well, which, you know, there isn't a fridge or anything near me. I put that on the fridge on the side and say we would go through this bit. So I don't, with demos, if it's just audience watching, I don't tend to go through that whole process start to finish, because you can't. You end up nervously standing there going, I hope it's all right, I hope it's all right. I take a mould that's already shelled, lovely decorated, and I'll lift a few out, put them on top, and then they can pass that round, as long as they promise not to eat any or lick them. That always gets a laugh. Rarely do I go through the whole process of even filling them or capping, because I'd need to be there. I'd have to be there for ages. Chef Melissa, how are you? She's polishing draggies and listening to me on Chocy Chat. How are you, Melissa? Anyway, I'm good, thank you. Mind your temper is saying, I've been given whiskey and creme de menthe by a hotel to make bonbons for them. Any pairing suggestions or a good ganache would do? Don't mix the two together, because one will knock out the other. Creme de menthe, I'd do white chocolate ganache. Just leave it there. Ask, I tell you what, here's mind your temper. Here's the question, right? Are they storing them? Is it for a single event? If it's for a single event, I would just go straight in with a ganache. And if you're serving them and they're eating them immediately and there's no shelf life issue, I just make a really, really nice ganache. With the if they do want them long shelf life, the whiskey is always nice in a caramel. Again, good shelf life. I think that I would let those two ingredients sing for themselves rather than trying to pair them with anything. I did a consultancy recently. And it was a brand of whiskies, so I got all the flavour notes, and I don't drink myself, but I understand the flavour notes and all those bits with it. And we were, with those flavour notes, we were then trying to marry up the chocolates that went with it. And I think from the testing, I think the overwhelming thing was that, like, if you could just get a chocolate that sits alongside it that's not too strong and not too sweet. And a couple sprang to mind. One is the Noche by Luca, which was really, really good against the whiskey. And then we did an 823, but we did an 823 and then just put in 10-12% of dark chocolate, just to lift it a little bit a little bit higher. If you do whiskies with a chocolate that's really, really dark, it's for all that I didn't eat any, but all the people that ate them goes, oh, it's too much. It's right in the roof of your mouth, and it's just. Like all of them are like, wow, that's too bad. But the milk chocolate one's much, much nicer, right? I think whiskey pairs with white chocolate. I think creme de menthe instinctively pairs with white chocolate. Whether you wanted to just tone down a white chocolate with 10% milk, just to give it a little bit of body, that might be an idea as well, right? But I certainly wouldn't blend them with any other flavours. Let that ingredient stand out, truly. And creme de menthe is, is quite potent, right? So you could colour that down a little bit with green colouring, green cocoa butter, just to give you a visual on top of a flavour note as well, right? So I'm cutting out tennis rackets on my cry cut, colouring them while listening. The joys of needing to decorate a shop window. Yeah, don't end. Anybody that's in business, it's just. It genuinely becomes 7 days a week. We got some mighty projects going on at the minute, and Randy and I are cooked. We're just absolutely like. And I said this morning I had to take the girls to gymnastics, and it's like, oh, I can barely stay awake. I can barely stay awake, and we're dealing with, this is all up and running now with the. I'm going to explain another element of this, right? So we've got this QR code reader. That's the traceability system for me. Once some of you that have done orders this week, you will have seen that you got an additional email from me, and the additional email would have been the invoice, and on the invoice is the batch codes of all the products that you ordered, and then I get a copy on my traceability system of who got what. So the formula's in there, the recipe's in there, the colours that I used are in there, the bottle batch is in there, the lid batch is in there. Absolutely everything. The moment it was made, the moment it was labelled, how many were labelled, and I don't have access to the traceability system. That's stored elsewhere so that I can't manipulate it. Does that make sense? and then the system, once we commit those orders, you would end up getting an email of the order that you got, and then you'll find that in there, you can't really zoom in on it on here, but this long row of numbers here, we have pinkies all stained with colours, this row of numbers and letters here, there's a PLU number, there's a batch code, there's three different batch code numbers on there, and there's a PLU number on there, and then there's a QR code reader on there as well. So as well as the ingredients, whether it's azo, nanozo. Big investment for us, big step up for us, moving into retail, moving into accreditations. We finally nailed that, and we turned on the emails this week. So a couple of people got some emails are like, what the hell's this? It doesn't marry up. So where we had to change bottles and bits and pieces. So if you do orders from now on, just look out for another email in a couple of days. That will give you the batch numbers of what you've ordered, and then you will be able to use that in your business for your own traceability. Just store those or print them out, so that if you wanted to know what colours you used in a particular batch of chocolate, you can have some, that email will give you some additional information that's your due diligence to say, these are the colours, this is where they came from, and that company's got the traceability on it. This is a chocolate I bought, that's the batch code, they've got the traceability on it. It actually starts covering you with due diligence. I did have a very brief conversation with somebody this week about colours and legislation, and you know, there are 4 or 5 brands, I'm not going to name them, but like there's no spec sheets, there's no batch coding. It's like, you know, message me for the next batch when it drops, and it's just kind of a dangerous game, right? It's a real dangerous game. We are doing this, I wanted clean and clear labelling, so exactly what's in it, spec sheets. I've seen bottles from other brands that say it could contain titanium, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. It's like, I don't know, I don't want to know that it could, I want to know actually what's in each single bottle, crystal clear, not it could do, on a little sticker that's been added on afterwards, right? So frustrating for me watching that going on, but I'm just going to continue doing what I do the way that I think we should be doing it, which is with safety in mind and with legislation in mind, because we're growing as a company, right? So mind your temper. What's it? Are they, just find out, are they storing them? Are they storing them? Are they using on single events? Is it chocolates for bedrooms? In which case you'd need to manage the shelf life and have a look at that. And you know as well as I do, like with Ganache, the longer the shelf life goes, the more weird the label gets, and then the more weird the label gets, the less flavour you have in there. So you've got to ask those questions, I think, when you're doing kind of wholesale elements. Where are they going? How are they storing them? And how can I make this safe for me and for them? Because I think the flavour bit's easy, right? Laura, you're welcome. Yeah, making 2 bonbons for each liquor. I'd go with Ganache. I really, really would. Oh, Tempers. Whiskey and gold chocolate Ganache is a huge hit. There we go. It's a white chocolate, right? What you don't want is the cocoa mass in there. Cocoa mass is quite bitter, right? And the more bitter the chocolate gets, and bitter chocolate's good, right? I mean, it shouldn't be so bitter. I think if you've got a chocolate that's so bitter, it's kind of probably not been very well made, but it does rather get the roof and the back of your mouth, right? When it gets the roof of your mouth, you're like, whoa, that's a bit of a, I do not like. 80% is about as far as I go. I tried Tacoma, Luca Tacoma does an 85%. It's like, it's great to work with, but it is not for me to eat. And I tried 100% chocolate while we were in France. It's like, no, don't need that in my life. But the stronger that cocoa mass gets, actually, the harder it is to impart other flavours into it, right? So it's balanced. Pretty fancy chocolates. Hello, hello. Right. So, creative chocolate confections. Is this a recap of it? Pour quickly, pour lengthwise rather than space between the cavities, rather than into the cavities. Hold the mold flat when tapping it out. Tap evenly, not in one spot. Yeah, absolutely. I would, if you got cocoa butter colour involved, I would never shell. I'd say I would never shell. There's a reason that I would shell at a lower temperature with colour in there, but that is if my room was really, really warm, right? or if I was doing a demo, it's really, really warm. But generally, I will always use the chocolate at 31.5 where we've got colour involved. 31.5, 32 every single time. There's a lady I helped with this recently, and she's like, look at my before and after chocolates, because before they were dull and chipped and broken, and now they're like glass spheres. It's like, it works. I will tell you what it is that I do, because it works. Yeah, it's really about, we want to vibrate the chocolate in and vibrate the chocolate out. We need to the chocolate needs to come out evenly, right? The more you tap if you pour chocolate down a glass sheet and you keep tapping, eventually it will all run down and it just gets thinner and thinner and thinner. The viscosity of chocolate, so 1, 2, 3, 4 drop, 17 drop if you're using Zephyr. I'd say that. God, it's the most fluid chocolate. It's like moulding with water. The more you tap, the more it comes out. So the viscosity is that eventually it will stop under its own inertia and under its own energy, right? And then you scrape that away. And as long as you don't bang this too much, no more will come out. So you don't end up with those little weird lips on the end of it. You then need to scrape flat. Chocolate gold, I rarely would thin it down. I treat it like white chocolate. It's almost Newtonian in that, like, if you give it a wiggle, if you give it a little shake, it seems quite thick. But once you stir it, it seems to be quite thin, right? Hotel contracts can be good, but you got to go knock on doors. Mo the Baker's making flowers for Cake International collaboration. Say collaboration. Share Mo once you finish. And Mo the Baker's going to start teaching flowers, I think. Isn't that the plan, Mo? If I just let something out the bag. Oh gosh, I just finished hulling. Oh, this is Ryan. I just finished hulling 45 kilos of strawberries for a bank holiday event. More hulling tomorrow and Sunday, I should imagine. I feel your pain. I wouldn't cut them off. You know, you get a little stalk. You get the little stalk on the top of strawberries, and then you get that frilly collar that goes around it. Okay, they're two separate things. That little frilly green that goes around the outside, that's what remains of the flower, and all it's done is fold backwards. If you hold the stalk and you don't take that hull out, if you hold the stalk of the strawberry and you lift up that little frilly skirt, it will come off and it will leave you the stalk, and they're so much more elegant when that little stalk, because it's something to hold on to. I think there's nothing worse when strawberries are being cut and then dipped and you're like, where's the little bit that's naturally there to hold on to? I'm sure you're probably doing that anyway. That looks like a good, mind your temper, that looks like a good good event, that. So, Melissa there, Chocolate Escapade, how are you? I love the initial fruit notes on the turmeric, and then my mouth curdles, yeah. Grange Chocolates. Grange Chocolates does some nice stuff. Fatima there in Bahrain, walaikum salam. There's so many. Jane has put some. There's so many. You know, the whiskies. I love that everybody's kind of shares some of the things that they're doing, right? Because I think you can, like, there's some amazing people that get flavour pairing, right? And they have access to the product, so they've had a chance to experiment and formulate different things, right? So did a few whiskey experiments a while ago and did a toffee apple whiskey one, which was my favourite. Would also recommend something sweet like caramel of some sort. Whiskey into caramel goes really, really well. Don't take the caramel too far, and if you need to, put white chocolate into it. Not like, as I said, don't put too much. You don't want to pair whiskies with, or spirits with, too much cocoa mass, because it'll just mask everything. Everything will disappear, right? Okay, Dolce Mara's asking for the Holy Grail here. Amara, I tell you what, you everybody that's in their own business. Now, I got friends with light companies. They supply lighting all over the world, and it's the same challenge for them, despite having 70 employees, right? If you're in your own business, you have to juggle all of it. 50% of your time is making chocolates. The other 50% is telling people about it. And when I say telling people about it, when you're doing accounts, you're telling the tax system what you're doing. If you're doing social media, you're telling your customers what you're doing. You have to do all of it. And I think you have to split it into times. There are definitely, I think the nice thing with chocolate is there are gaps, right? There are gaps in the process. So I would spray on a Sunday, for example, and I might park those for 3 or 4 days and get on with other things. Like we'll get all the fillings done, we'll get the nut paste done. We do stuff in bulk. The things that we can get done in bulk, we'll do in bulk. So like, you know, when it gets towards kind of September time, all your nut paste should have been made. Stuart, blind chocolatier, I guarantee you by the end of, I bet you by the end of July, I bet Stuart, the blind chocolatier, by the end of July, I bet you all his nut pastes are done for Christmas, because they are fantastic shelf life. There's no water content. He will just make all the nut pastes, and they will all get vac packed or zip locked, and they will get put away in a fridge, ready to rock and roll. It's one thing that he doesn't have to worry about. You know, you spray your mold, and then there's a gap, so you can get on with other things, and it's very much stops chocolate production, stop-start. You know, once you've filled the shells, once you've done the shells and they've retracted, you can fill them. If your filling's already made, that's the time saver. But then you've got to wait for that filling to firm up, and that's clean down, get on with another task, right? So I think that, you know, how do you manage production, social media and advertising, admins, research and development, and everything else in between? You split it into small chunks. Use some of the apps that are available to you. You know, you don't need to make a reel and then post it. You can make many in advance and save them, and then go back and edit them. If you're making chocolates in your business, you should be constantly videoing what it is that you're doing, because whilst people do like seeing the end product, like here's a box of chocolates, what people really do like and what resonates with them is when they see you making them. So you doing chocolate rain, you piping, you mixing caramel, you with the melanger, they want to see you. And if you're not confident, you don't need to talk on camera. It just, you need to be silently you in the background doing something, and then you put music over the top of it, right? So you have to juggle all of it. That's business, and anybody who runs a business knows that actually the fun bit, I get to do the fun bit. Mrs. So Sassy does she does a much harder job than I have. She disagrees, but I think the stuff that she does with internet and marketing and sales and accounts, and she's got by far the biggest chunk. I kind of get to do the fun bit, but my bit's complicated and long-winded and stop-start, right? So we will finish this shortly. 10 minutes or so left. I'll be in here till midnight, possibly 1 in the morning. I'm not in here, but I'll be in the workshop till 1 in the morning, probably getting all the 250 grams top back up, because there are so many out of stock because we had a delay in the bottles, and that's just how it is. I will probably get up at 6 a.m, start again. That's how it's going. I might bunk off Sunday, I might not, I don't know. But it's a 7-day-a-week job, right? And every minute that you're working in your business, it's for you. It's not for somebody else, it's for you. So it's time, you know, it's time well served. It's valuable. It's all for yourself. You're not paying somebody else. Like if you're an employee, you're making somebody else rich, right? Amelia Chocolates, hello, Amelia, Amalia. She sent me a lovely message this week. Thank you. Karen, next on my shopping list is a new immersion blender, and the bar mix one's the best to invest in for chocky work. Bar mix does. I know there's a lot of people say it creates too many bubbles. Not true. My bar mix isn't in here, it's in the workshop. There's different blades that you put on there, and I put the one in that looks like a whisk. I think with any immersion blend, now there are one with flat blades that are very, very good, but they don't work in small volumes, right? So if you had half a tub of ganache, ain't going to work for you at all. So what I like about bar mix is the strength of the motor. The one I've got is the second one I've bought in my career. The first one I had lasted me about 20 years. By the time I changed that over, the cable on, and it'd been through every kitchen I've worked in, and every chef had dropped it, and it was still working. The only reason I changed it is like the wire, there was literally nothing left of the cable, and you can't open them up to adjust it. So bar mix I like the speed, I like the motor, I like the warranty, I like the quality of it, right? What you need to do is make sure that you put it well and truly underneath the liquid when you turn it on, and you won't get an air bubble. And excuse me, and I've heard so many people say, oh, it binds up too much air. When you're using an immersion blender, if you bring it above the level of that liquid, you're just gonna, doesn't matter which blender you've got, doesn't matter which one, if you lift it above that surface, it's going to catch air, they'll get an air bubble underneath it, and it will just spin all more bubbles in there. The only way to get the bubbles out is to put it through a sieve, but you should be putting the stuff through a sieve anyway, because anything that's in there you can make sure is then filtered out. Having said that, if you put bar mix, if you submerge it fully and then turn it on, as long as that's down, what it's doing is, it's not mixing it on the side, what it's doing is pulling everything from the bottom up through the base and circulating it, right? So I'm a big fan of bar mix. I think they work. I don't ever have an issue with it creating too many bubbles, unless I lift the end of it comes too close to the surface level of what I'm blending. But they're strong, right? Get the one that's got the slightly longer stick, it's a lot easier, and get the one that comes with a stand, because they're a little bit top heavy, so it doesn't matter where you put them, they always try and roll off the table, right? Works for me, and I know lots of people use them, so they are hard to clean. I get a big jug of really, really hot water, and I put it in there, and I just give it like 30-40 seconds, and it tends to clean itself. You do have to take the little blade off the front. The other thing I like about bar mix is there is no way for water to ingress into that stem. There are some cheaper ones where you get water, when you try and wash them, the water goes up into the stem. So the next time, if you want to try, where we do big bowls of chocolate and we put the silk in, tiniest drop of water, I don't have that problem with the bar mix. It's difficult. Once you take the blade off, you can wash them, you can dry them, you can get a little brush in there, and they're easy to dry, but no water goes up into the stem, unlike some other brands, right? Which has caught me out. As we all know, you need a tiny pin drop of water to go to your chocolate, and it's good night, right? Chocolate Escape, your website is fantastic. Mine, thank you. That's Mrs. So Sassy's work. She had the idea, and she told the designers kind of what it is that she wanted, and I want to say I don't get hugely involved. I look at it, of course I look at it, and I looked at some content, and I did some of the writing for it, but Mrs. So Sassy, she does all that in the background, and our business is absolutely split. I don't label these. She's got this super duper amazing machine, and I just make the colours and then say, here's the numbers, here's the 3 batch codes, this is what you need, and she does these. So I'm a lucky boy, and I'm very fortunate that I've got somebody on my team that understands tech, knows what they're doing, and just kind of just gets on with it, right? And there's many a night when it's midnight and we just got stuff to do and we have to get it done, and it's team effort, right? But thank you. That's yeah, not my work, I'm afraid. That's I like Robo. Somebody mentioned Robo. I like the blade on the Robo Coupe, but it's hard to get the smaller size one. It's just not that powerful. It's only like 65 watts. It's just kind of not enough, is it? So happy days. Everybody should Everybody in the house should help, folding boxes, doing everything, get children involved, everybody involved, everybody, right? We all sit around the table, and we have a workshop, so we've got a huge table there, and when we need to do labelling, and we need to do, some of the bottles are machine done, some of the bottles we have to put the labels on ourselves, but team effort, right? That's how it works. Adria, A+ truffles. Haven't spoken to you in a long time. How are you? Big shout out to Rania. Yeah. And the colours are fantastic. People like the colours. I said this so many times, and it's still like, I see what everybody posts, and I don't always know who's bought the colours. I don't always know who, you know, I only know 10-15% of the people that buy the colours, because they don't order the colours sometimes, or they don't do orders in their brand's name. It's just a generic email, and it's very hard for me to identify who's bought them. But then we get tagged in businesses, and I have a look, and it's like, I don't know who that is that's bought them, because they bought it on, you know, they use Apple Pay and it's got their personal email address, so I just don't get, and I get to see an address roughly where it is. But you have something sent to London, you're like, I have no idea who that is, or something gets sent to Los Angeles, or to, you know, somewhere in Texas, or you know, wherever, right? So but I'm always humbled when people tag me in the stuff and it's got our colours in, and it's like, or if I see the bottles and it's like, I made those, and it's still a pinch moment for me. I'm still very proud of what it is that we've done. I was having a conversation with a businessman the other day, and he said, just don't get so, he says, my only advice, because his business has grown massive, it's not chocolate, it's a different industry, and he said, at the beginning I was really in touch with all the customers, and then it got so big that I lost touch, and he said, I missed that bit, and he said, I'd love to go back where I just got to talk to the people that use my products, right? He wasn't complaining about the money he makes, but he said, I'm so far removed from what it is that I started with that I kind of miss doing the bit that I started, right? That's why I started the business, because my product was a solution for people. And we had a really, really good natter about, you know, if you were going to start again, what would you do? And he said, I would just put myself in a position, even with expanding and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as a business. He said, I'd have put myself in a position where I'm not on a board, and I'm not in meetings, and I'm not on all these other things. I'd have put myself in a position where I'm more in touch with customers. So here's Salma.
Hi.
What's the best way to adjust a recipe if you're unable to fill 2 or 3 bonbons? I mean, there's not much you can do last minute, Adria. I think all that you can do is reformulate. There's nothing wrong with taking a recipe, dividing it by 100, right, and then timesing it by 110, right, and that will give you 10% more of that recipe, right? You know, a debate I have often is, you know, somebody's like, they stole my recipe. It's like, you can't really steal recipes. If I divide it by half and times it by 3, it's a different recipe, it's a different formula. And you can't say it's mine, or pinch of this, pinch of that. What I would say is, like, if you know consistently that recipe doesn't produce that amount, you are able to weigh up those products. If you know what your mould takes, this is the trick. If you know how, like, I know that this is 539 by Implast, and that's the mould that we use. We use 553, but that's for a different product. It tends to be the Spars, that one, but my one is a 539. If I fill that with caramel, I know that I need 290 grams, and it leaves me a tiny little bit left over. I don't. I'll formulate it for 300 because there's a little bit to eat or test or what have you. So if I accidentally eat some, but it's about knowing what your molds. And if you're making a ganache, you should be able to weigh up all those elements, right? Because if you weigh all those elements up, it should give you a rough idea. And if you need 290 grams and your recipe comes to 270, then you're going to be 20 grams short, but it will be more because you get stuff stuck in the piping bag. So you need a couple of percent over. A lot of that is to do with, you can't reformulate it, but If you know it consistently doesn't fill the mould, you need to nail it down. Having said that, with that recipe, if it made 30 moulds too many, you just take that recipe, divide it by 100 and times it by 70, and that will give you that, right? Because that's kind of how it works, right? Recipes are formulas, and formulas are interchangeable. I don't think the recipe matters as much as the technique and the formula, right? Very often you see with recipes, and this frustrates me, is they don't write the recipe in the order that you would use them. They write the recipe in the order of weight. So if the largest weight is chocolate, that's the first thing, and then it will have cream, and then there'll be something else, and then there'll be the glucose right at the bottom, and it then says mix the cream and glucose together, and it's like, why don't you just do the recipe with the cream and the glucose and the salt, and we blend those, and then have the dry goods after it? Never made sense to me. Once you write recipes like that, where it's got the elements that will be mixed first or heated, you actually start to see a formula come up. Eventually you will see a formula, and then you'll be able to go, I already know how to make this ganache and I've never made it before. Oh, Adrian, that's brilliant. We need to have a catch up because I haven't spoken to you. It must be about a year since we had a chat. I'm doing great, she says. We just bought our first home and turned my whole dining room into a chocolate paradise. That's always good. So I've been growing, expanding website. I know last time we talked, you said to me like, how warm is too warm? And there was a massive boiler behind you, and she said like, in centigrade it's like 32. That's like, yeah, it's too warm to do chocolate. Oh, we need to have a catch up. Creative Confection, what's your personal opinion on titanium dioxide? Oh, I read this. I don't have an issue with titanium dioxide. I do you know what I have an issue with? I have an issue with governments that pay scientists to come up with research knowing that the government were paying to have a certain outcome, right? We've been using titanium for a long time. There is the EU that say it's really, really bad and it's got this and this. But then if you think about what was going on 5 years ago with injections and all the rest of it, and they were telling us stuff, and years later we're like, it wasn't actually true, that was it. There was an interesting article written by the Canadian government about titanium, where they found absolutely zero harmful. Titanium's a mineral. It's a mineral that's found. It comes in the form of a stone, like iron oxides, like a lot of elements that we use. I don't think we use enough of it in bonbon making, but I couldn't quantify that, and I couldn't put legal notice on that because I don't know how much you spray and how much you use. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all. It's like some of the colours. You know, we talk about the Southampton list of colours, and I regularly get two questions like, have I got any colours that are E-free? No, all colours have an E number, European number. So even if you wanted to grab spirulina, it's a natural product, it's got an E number. If you wanted to get turmeric, right, or curcumin, it's got an E number. If you wanted to use paprika as a colouring, it's got an E number. So no, you can't have E-free. You could have E-free if you made, say you dehydrated a fruit or something yourself. Yes, you could, but then you'd need to go back to see whether there's actually an E number allocated to it, a new one. And when I look at the E numbers, we get the 1 groups and the 2 groups. The 1s are the colours, we get the 2s which are acids, we get the 3s which are alkalis, we get the 4s which are sugar based. So there's always new ones being added on, and you'd have to go all the way to the end of that list, and it goes up into the E12,000s, right? So, and then they start doing the ABCDs and all the rest of it, and it's like, if I showed you the book of the E numbers, it's that thick, it's that wide, and there are 20,000 pages in there. So it's a difficult one. Some countries disallow it, some countries do allow it. I don't have a major problem, and it's like the Southampton colours. It's based on some research that was done in the 80s at Southampton University, which is near here. My reading into it, my research into it, we have to put this declaration saying could have adverse effect on children attention. But the study was done on a small group of children in the 80s who weren't at school. They were essentially homeschooled, right? And if you went back to the 80s, the children that were homeschooled were probably the ones that were a little bit naughty. I think we probably call them ADHD or something else, some other classification now. Mine have colours. Mine eat chocolate. I don't see them go absolutely bat crazy every time they eat a bonbon. I see happiness. I don't know if we've got, I mean, there are some colours that have been banned, and quite rightly so, because they were overly synthetic, right? But I mean, I don't. It's an age-old debate, isn't it? I can tell you, titanium, the biggest market segment that I send titanium to is the EU, right? So, and I always get that question: is it okay to order it? Yeah, you can order whatever you want. What you do with it's your business. You need to be aware you can't put it into food for sale, but a lot of people buy it for. There is a brand in Paris that buy our white because they do lots of sculptures that go in their front window, and it's filmed, and they have all sorts of showcase stuff, right? So it's a huge brand, and I don't have a major problem with it. We've been using it for years. It's only recent research, but it's a bit like the wine thing, isn't it? Wine's bad for you. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Coffee's bad for you. No, it is. No, it's chocolate's bad for you. No, it's not. Every February, this little pop-up comes up on social media, and it's chocolate's really bad for you. And then Valentine's comes by, and it's the next one is like chocolate's full of vitamin A and vitamin D, and it's really, really good for you. Nobody knows really what to believe anymore. As I said, I don't particularly like when governments pay scientists to do research, because the government specifically wants this written down, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist in the slightest, but I understand with what we went through 5 years ago. They said don't eat eggs because they're bad for you, but turns out that eggs are really good for you. And then they said don't eat too much meat because it's really bad for you and it causes colon cancer. And actually it turns out that a meat diet's quite good for you, because that's kind of how we were built, with molars and all the rest of it. So it's hard to debate on this one. I proper jump up and down on my seat when I get into this debate. That's my thoughts on it. Let me scroll forward. Yeah, do you know, oddly, it's been banned in the EU for food, but it's still in toothpaste and medicines, right? You can't write this stuff, Right, it is 20 to 9. I need to finish drinking my Ribena, which is natural and full of vitamin C. Then I need to go down the workshop, and I've got to start making colours, because I'm a busy boy. But it's nice chatting to everybody tonight. I am, Mo's saying butter was bad for you, so we went with hydrogenated margarine and whipped water and fat, right? And now it turns out that butter's actually quite good for you. Who knows, right? Cadmium in chocolate, that always rears its head, doesn't it? Cadmium is in soil, and if the plants grow on it and absorb it, it never actually makes it through that membrane. So there we go. Have an amazing week. I will see all of you very, very shortly. Have an amazing week. Give me a chance to just get fully stocked up. There's a lot of large bottles that were out of stock. I'm going to slowly get to them over this weekend. I've got classes and all sorts of stuff going on. So, Alice, I will email you and message you in a bit, so we can schedule a chat. Other than that, have an amazing week. Be nice to people. All of Chocy Chat crew are. The people that sent me the nasty messages ain't nothing to do with Chocy Chat, and they never will be, because that's not how I roll. But have an amazing week. Start getting your plans together. Start thinking about, what does Christmas look like? What do you want to do? What does it look like? Take care, everybody.